All right, administrators, teachers, welcome. If you're thinking about bringing AP Seminar to your school or you're just getting started with it, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to walk through what makes this course so different and, honestly, so powerful. We'll cover everything you need to know to make it a huge success for your students and your whole school community.
Okay, so here's what we've got on deck. We'll kick things off with the big why. What's the real advantage here? Then we'll get into the nuts and bolts, the two major projects, and that end-of-course exam. And we'll finish up with the most important part, what you, the teachers and administrators, can do to really make this thing fly.
All right, section 1. So let's talk about the big picture first. Why AP Seminar? What's the real advantage? I'll tell you right now, this is not just another AP course you tack onto the schedule. It's a foundational experience. It's all about building skills. Skills your students are going to need for college, for their careers, and frankly, for life.
And this quote right here, it really nails it. AP courses, and especially AP Seminar, are all about developing a student's ability to look at information, figure out if it's credible, and then make up their own minds. It's that classic shift, right? We're not just teaching them what to think, we're teaching them how to think. And that is a game changer.
So, let's break down those skills. We're talking about independent research, real teamwork, critical analysis, and making an argument that's actually backed up by evidence. I mean, look at this list. This is exactly what colleges and employers are shouting for. And here's the kicker. These skills are not just nice-to-haves. They directly boost the kind of analytical reading and writing that helps students excel on state exams. This course aligns beautifully with 10th grade TEKS, by the way, and prepares them for pretty much whatever comes next.
Okay, so that's the what. Now, how do we actually do it? How does this course build all those amazing skills? Well, this is where AP Seminar really flips the script. It's not a typical class where you memorize a bunch of facts. Instead, it's all built around something called the QUEST framework. Think of it as an operating system for inquiry.
This chart lays out the difference perfectly. On one side, you've got your traditional course, teacher-led, all about content mastery, single subject. But AP Seminar, it's the total opposite. It's student-led inquiry. The focus is on developing skills, not just memorizing facts, and it's all about exploring across different subjects. The teacher isn't the sage on the stage anymore. You become the guide on the side. It's a huge but really exciting shift.
And this is that operating system I was talking about, QUEST. It's an acronym that literally walks students through the entire research process. Question and explore, understand and analyze, evaluate multiple perspectives, synthesize ideas, and finally, team, transform, and transmit. This isn't just a one-time thing. It's a tool, a process they can use for the rest of their academic and professional lives.
Now check this out, because this is a big deal for an AP course. Look at how the score is calculated. Only 45% is the final exam. The majority, a whopping 55%, comes from performance tasks that students do during the year. This isn't about cramming for one big test. It's about sustained work, real projects, actual research papers, and presentations. It completely changes the dynamic of the classroom.
All right, let's dive into that first chunk of the grade, Performance Task 1. This is the team project, and it's worth 20% of their final score. It's their first real test of that QUEST framework, and they have to do it together.
So, how does it work? It's actually a really smart multi-step process. First, each student on the team does their own research and writes an individual research report. We call it the IRR. That holds everyone accountable. Then, they have to come together, synthesize all that individual work, and create one team multimedia presentation, or TMP. And it's not over then. At the end, there's an oral defense where the teacher asks each student a question. It's a fantastic way to assess both individual work and true collaboration.
Okay, moving on to Performance Task 2. This is the big one, the individual project. It's worth 35% of the score, and this is where students really get to fly solo and show what they can do.
So where do they even start? Well, the College Board releases a packet of stimulus materials, and it's fascinating stuff. It could be anything from a scientific article to a poem to a piece of art, like this map of Alaka speakers. The student's job is to look at all these different sources, find a connection, a theme that ties at least two of them together, and use that as a launch pad for their very own research question.
And from there, it's a full-on academic marathon. They write a 2,000-word research paper called the Individual Written Argument, or IWA. Then they have to distill that massive paper down into a compelling 6 to 8 minute presentation, the IMP. And again, it ends with an oral defense. This entire process, it's basically a dry run for a college-level research project. It is incredibly valuable practice.
Okay, so that covers the performance tasks. Now for the last piece of the puzzle, the end-of-course exam. This is the 45% that happens on exam day. And while it looks more like a traditional test, the focus is still 100% on skills.
It's a 2-hour exam, split into 2 parts. In Part A, they get a single article and have to analyze the author's argument. Break it down, look at the evidence, the reasoning. Then in Part B, they get 4 different sources and have to build their own argument, using at least 2 of those sources as evidence. The key takeaway here? No memorization required. It's all about applying the skills they've been practicing all year long.
So we've seen the what and the how. Now let's get to the most critical part of this whole equation, you. This course is a partnership between teachers and administrators, and your roles are absolutely essential for success.
All right, teachers, let's talk about your role, because it's a little different here. You are the facilitator, the coach. You're not lecturing from the front of the room. Instead, you're guiding students, running checkpoints to make sure their work is their own, especially with things like AI, and upholding academic integrity. You'll also handle the logistics of recording all those presentations, which is mandatory, and then scoring them. It's a hands-on, supportive role that is incredibly rewarding.
Okay, administrators, your turn. How can you set your teachers and students up for success? Your support is literally the foundation this entire program is built on. So what are the non-negotiables?
Let's be really clear about this. First, technology. One-to-one access to devices isn't a luxury, it's a necessity for the research and creation they'll be doing. Second, time and space. You have to schedule dedicated time and find a suitable place for students to record their presentations without interruptions. Third, flexibility. This is not a bell-to-bell lecture-style class. Teachers need flexibility in their schedule for things like research days and one-on-one checkpoints. And finally, training. Make sure your teachers have the time they need to complete the required online AP scoring training. These 4 things are the absolute bedrock of a successful program.
Look, at the end of the day, bringing AP Seminar to your school is a commitment. But it's not just a commitment to another course, it's a commitment to building the actual researchers, the problem solvers, the critical thinkers of tomorrow. You're not just teaching for a test, you're preparing them for their entire future.
So we've gone through the whole roadmap. We've seen the power and the potential. The only question left is the one on the screen. What is the first step you will take to ensure your school is ready to empower this next generation of thinkers? Because the journey of inquiry for your students, well, it starts right now.